Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanacharya. Yamuna Tira Vanacharya. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanacharya. Yamuna Tira Vanacharya. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanacharya. Yamuna Tira Vanacharya. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhangsa Brahmadakacharya Asadhara Sadushi Shriman. His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Swamiraj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hariva Slava Zabrani Bhakta Slava Shri Guru Shri Garangi. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vicharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskadyade Siddharane Om Agana Tamanandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksura Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Didati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shiguro Shiyuta Padakamalam Shigurum Vaishnavam Scha Shirupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiva Sakan Zvitamscha Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranitananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 1, Questions by the Sages, text number 1. Translation, O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, substance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by illusory representations of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the universal material universes temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever freed from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. You read that long paragraph. You gave the class last time, right? Yes. And you read this whole page paragraph?
Yes. We went all the way to Yada Yada Hi Dharma Saglanti Bhavati Bharata. That's where we stopped.
Yada, yada. I don't see anything. Yada, yada.
That verse, maybe just one line of that verse is there. The last part of that paragraph.
Last part of the paragraph says, whenever there's decline of Dharma and rise of Adharma. Okay. Thus, that the Supreme Lord is all perfect is confirmed in all Shruti mantras. It is said in the Shruti mantras that the all-perfect Lord threw a glance over matter and thus created all living beings. The living beings are parts and parcels of the Lord, and he impregnates the vast material creation with the seeds of spiritual sparks. Thus the creative energies are set in motion to enact so many wonderful creations. An atheist may argue that God is no more expert than a watchmaker, but of course God is greater because he can create machines in duplicate male and female forms. The male and female forms of different types of machineries go on procuring innumerable similar machines without God's further attention. If a man could manufacture a set of machines that could produce other machines without his attention, then he could approach the intelligence of God. But that is not possible, for each machine has to be handled individually. Therefore, no one can create as well as God. Another name for God is asamudva, which means that no one is equal to or greater than him. Param Satyam, or the supreme truth, is he who has no equal or superior. This is confirmed in the Shruti mantras. It is said before the creation of the material universe, there existed the Lord only, who is master of everyone. That the Lord instructed Brahma in Vedic knowledge. That Lord has to be obeyed in all respects. Anyone who wants to get rid of the material entanglement must surrender unto him. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskadhyade Satarane. I think one part Srila Prabhupada mentions that the first verse you can study for, was that 7 months? We'll try and study in a week. Here is the example of that Krishna can make a machine that can make other machines. There's no history of material scientists making any machine that makes other machines by itself. There always has to be some kind of programming into the machine, and then maybe you can make some other machine, which also has to be programmed. But as we know, Krishna has made machines, male. For instance, the idea is no one can make a male Rolls Royce and a female's Rolls Royce. And when they get together, they make little Rolls Royces. And when they give them gasoline and you take care of them nicely, they grow up to become big Rolls Royces, and everyone can get a Rolls Royce. That doesn't go on. But Krishna has made male and female machines in 8,400,000 species, and they make other machines similar to themselves. So that's only Krishna can do that. Now, how do we know that Krishna did it? Well, someone did it. Otherwise, if it just came about by accident, well, why don't machines come about by accident? Why don't you walk down the block and all of a sudden a car appears before you? It takes people to make machines. So we can understand it took some person to make male and female machines in 8,400,000 species of life. They just don't appear out of nowhere. And also Krishna can make a machine. You put grass in one end, and outside the other end comes milk. Now, which scientist can make a machine in which you put grass in one end, and the other end you get milk? Is there any such machine? But Krishna has made that machine. It's called the cow. So we should appreciate Krishna's creations, not simply become bewildered or glorify some insignificant creation, throwing up, as Prabhupada said, some Sputnik or some satellite and declaring oneself as good as God. Now, even Priyavrata created another sun, and that when he traveled in his chariot, the sun lit up the dark part of the universe when the other sun went away. But at least, if the scientists want to claim to be as good as God, they should become at least as good as Priyavrata and create another sun that could help out the Eskimos when it gets cold in the winter. And if they can't do that, at least they should create a little sun, and we can put it on our ashram when it gets cold. It'd save so much on electricity, no one could complain. But we can't even do that. We can hardly create a light bulb that stays up, that stays for very long. And these lights don't give us very much heat. They just give us some, some vibration that we can see. Unless one surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, it is certain that he will be bewildered. When an intelligent man surrenders unto the lotus feet of Krishna and knows completely that Krishna is the cause of all causes, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, then only can such an intelligent man become a Mahatma, or a great soul. Mahatma, or great soul. But such a great soul is rarely seen. Only the Mahatmas can understand that the Supreme Lord is the primeval cause of all creations. He is Parama, or ultimate truth, because all other truths are relative to him. He is omniscient. For him, there is no illusion. Well, without knowing that Krishna is the cause of all causes, then we must imagine that something else is the cause. And if we imagine something else is the cause, even we take shelter of Krishna to destroy the cause, whatever is happening to us. But if Krishna is the source of that activity, then we're asking Krishna to destroy himself, which probably wouldn't be a good idea. If we blame him for what's going wrong, and we blame some unknown cause for what's going wrong, and then we pray to Krishna to eliminate that unknown cause. But if that's Krishna, then it doesn't make very much sense. It's very unlikely Krishna is going to eliminate himself. For instance, if someone shouts at you, and you think, Krishna, why did that happen? Why don't you, I've been offended. Why don't you take care of that unwanted offense? Well, Krishna is behind everything, so he must be behind that too. So therefore, we should ask Krishna, what should I do? Why did you put me in this situation? And what do you want me to do as a response to it? That's called Krishna consciousness. Some Mayavadi scholars argue that Srimad Bhagavatam was not compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, and some of them suggest that this book is a modern creation written by someone named Vopadeva. In order to refine such meaningless arguments, Sridhar Swami points out that there is reference to the Bhagavatam in many of the oldest Puranas. This first sloka of the Bhagavatam begins with the Gayatri mantra. There is reference to this in the Matsya Purana, which is the oldest Purana. And that Purana is said with reference to the Gayatri mantra in the Bhagavatam that there are many narrations of spiritual instructions, beginning with the Gayatri mantra. And there is a history of Ritrasura. Anyone who makes a gift of this great work on a full moon day attains to the highest perfection of life by returning to Godhead. There is reference to the Bhagavatam in other Puranas also, where it's clearly stated that this work was finished in the 12 cantos, which include the Bhagavatam in a conversation between Gautama and Maharaj Ambrisha. The king was advised therein to read regularly Srimad Bhagavatam if he desired liberation from material bondage. Under the circumstances, there is no doubt about the authority of the Bhagavatam. Within the past 500 years, many erudite scholars and acharyas like Jiva Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Vallabhacharya, and many others distinguished scholars, even after the time of Lord Chaitanya, made elaborate commentaries on the Bhagavatam, and the serious student would do well to attempt to go through them to better relish the transcendental messages. As it says in the beginning, Nigama kalpataror galitam palam sukhamukha drava samyutam pibata bhagavatam alayam mohor maho bhuva bhuvikaha. This is the third verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literature. So that's what we're eating today, this morning. It's good for Ekadasi also, because it's a fruit. So don't worry, you're not breaking Ekadasi by hearing this mature fruit of the Vedic wisdom. It emanated from the lips of Srila Jiva Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, the fruit has become even more tasteful. Although it is nectarian juice, was already reliable for all, including liberated souls. So here it says, Mohoraho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. That, and the translation is that until liberation, or even in a liberated condition, the word is akaya. No, alayam, until liberation or even a liberated condition. So why doesn't it just say it's reliable by the Paramahamsas? They're in ecstasy when they hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Because most of us, it has no meaning to us. Because we're not Paramahamsas. If someone gives you a fruit, even a mature fruit, but you have no hunger, then what good is it? What are you going to do with it? You can smear it on your hair or something as a hairdressing. But that's not really what the mature fruit is meant for. It's meant to be relished and tasted. So only the Paramahamsas can taste the Srimad Bhagavatam in its fullest extent in the state of prema. But being conditioned souls, it's understood that when we approach the Bhagavatam, we're approaching it from the point of non-liberation, generally speaking. That is, we have material desires, we have a tendency for speculation. And what are those material desires? Chatura vida bhajante mams janasakritina arjuna artha jignasya artharati jnani chabharatarshava. There are four kinds of pious people who approach Krishna. One of them is the person who has suffering. I think most of us who come not out of bliss, we saw the Harinam party that we were just like so overwhelmed with ecstasy that right there on the street we shaved our head or put on a sari and said, I surrender. No, we're promised that we'll become happy. If you're not happy, it must mean that you must be suffering. So there's a promise at the beginning, chant Hare Krišna. Of course, our promise is chant Hare Krišna and be happy. But that takes some time to be. We're used to chant Hare Krišna and be miserable. Chant Hare Krišna and let the mind flow. So it takes a while to learn how to become happy. And that happiness is achieved gradually through a process of different steps. And the first step is, as it says, Ye shamantikatam papam janan punyakarmanam te dvam vamo nirmuktva bhajante mam drida vrataha. Translation? Anyone know?
Those who are dedicated, I give them the intelligence to complete.
Close. Yesham antikatam papam.
In the end, I give them the intelligence.
Those who are done with all sinful reactions.
Okay. That's, well, at least you remember that. That we have to forget too, all the sinful reactions. Those who have yesham antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam. Jananam punya, what is punya karmanam?
Pious activities.
Yes, pious activities. Jananam, what is jananam? Janam. Nadanam. What's that?
Knowledge. Jnana.
No, not jnana, I don't think.
The followers.
People. Jana. Jananam punya karmanam. So those who have acted jananam, persons who have acted piously in previous lives, in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. So before we act piously, we have to give up our impious activities. So only those who pass their lives in practicing the regulated principles of religion. So what are the regulated principles of religion? What's that?
You mean the 4 pillars of Dharma?
Yes.
Kindness, truthfulness, mercy, and sacrifice.
What's that? Austerity. These are the 4 principles. And what breaks the 4 principles, pillars of religion? Give someone else. What breaks the 4 principles of religiosity? Yes, these are the 4. Someone has to give those up gradually. We don't. Probably until we become liberated, we don't completely give them up. One time, Srila Prabhupada was giving initiation, and then he asked the devotee, please recite the 4 regular principles. And after reciting them, Prabhupada said, which principle do you like the most? So even Gop Kumara, right before he became liberated, in the last, he became Brahma for a long time, and then he went into the coverings of the universe. There are 8 coverings of the universe made out of earth, water, fire, air, ether, etc. And in each covering of the universe is a different demigod that presides there. But finally he got to the last covering of the universe. Now the coverings of the universe are so big that compared to the inside, if you take a little dot, like in a dot in a page in the book, and you draw a line 32 kilometers away, that little dot is the whole inside of the whole universe. And the distance 32 kilometers away is the coverings of the universe. So the coverings are much more bigger. The first covering is earth, and then 10 times bigger than the covering of the earth comes water. And 10 times bigger than that comes fire, and then ether, and then air, then ether. So there are 8 coverings. And finally, when he got to the last covering of the universe, guess who's the presiding deity of the last covering of the universe? This vast billions of miles or kilometers large. Guess who's the predominating deity? Shirodakashai Vishnu. No. He's the one who resides on the Milk Ocean. No, Mohini Morty. And who is Mohini Morty?
She's the incarnation of Lord Vishnu.
Yes, for what? What is her special attraction?
She's very attractive to the demons.
Is Lord Shiva a demon?
Lord Shiva? No. And
He's even above the demigods. She's sex personified. That's how it's described in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Not that she's engaging in illicit sex, but she's so attractive that she invokes sex desire in anyone who sees her, including Lord Shiva, who's Dhira, is considered to be the most sober person in the material world. But even the last covering is sex desire. So before liberation, one has to give up the last desire is to enjoy. No one came into the material world to suffer, did they? We're not staying here because I'm looking forward to my next birthday so I can suffer more. On my next birthday, I'm going to suffer. I mean, some people are crazy enough that they enjoy suffering, but that's their enjoyment, is suffering. We're also enjoying suffering, but that's a different thing. We don't think it's suffering. So that's the last thing to give up, and out of all the regular principles, and that's gradually given up in the course of progress towards liberation. And the next one is acting piously. Pious in this age, Krita Punya Punyam is devotional service. Helping little old ladies across the street is not necessarily pious. You may get a little pious credit for it, as long as the little old lady is not going to the grocery store to buy meat. And you're helping her. So, the actual pious activity is devotional service in Krishna consciousness. That's the pious activity. And that will elevate us beyond the bodily concept of life, so we understand the existence of the soul, at least theoretically, and therefore take to knowledge, jignasu, to become inquisitive about how I can liberate the soul from the material universe, from all problems, and become happy. Material advancement also means getting free from miseries. And the more we get free from misery, the more happy we become. Why do people so happy they go to the beach and they sit on the sand and get baked by the sun? What makes them so happy to do that? Because they're trying to get out of all their misery and the worries about what's going to happen. The next closest thing to Brahman is the sun, so they just sit there in the sun. And maybe they even fall asleep. They get an extra opportunity to become unconscious and get free from their misery. Prabhupada mentions that in Bengal, they used to have runners, and the runners would take a document from one place to another. So the runner would take the document, go to the park, and sleep for 4 hours. And they wake up and deliver the document and come back. And his employer would say, where have you been? It's like 5 hours now that you've been gone. He said, oh, there's so much traffic. It's so busy, so hard. So he took an extra 4 hours to sleep because he thought that was liberation. That was bliss. So again, Jignasa, how to become free from all our misery. Ultimately, Jnani learns that realizes that he's the spirit soul, like the 4 Kumaras, and therefore he's obtained liberation. And that's possible to obtain just by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, to progress from one stage, conquering sinful, following the regular principles of religion, conquering sinful reactions. Acting piously, conquering sinful reactions, rising to accepting pure devotional service, rising to the pure knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then meditating in trance. But at least up to the platform of accepting devotional service, conquering sinful reactions, we could say, and then getting free from the dualities of delusion so that we can accept devotional service. So that's possible. That's called liberation, getting free from all material concepts of life. Not just theoretically, but actually. If you woke up one day and someone asked you, who are you? You said, I'm a spirit soul. and it was actually the spirit soul who was talking, then you'd be free from all material conceptions of life, gross and subtle. So that's, Bhagavatam can give that opportunity. Well, I'm going to read the last paragraph, no, 2 more paragraphs. I hope you don't miss this purport for a few years. We've gotten accustomed to hearing it. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, well, actually, I'll ask I don't want to finish it. Anyone have any questions or comments? Yes.
You mentioned this example with Mohini Murti and Lord Shiva. And if Lord Shiva was attracted, what chance do you have?
Well, if you become attracted to Mohini Murti, I don't think there's any problem. But not in the way, if you become attracted to her as her being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there's no problem. But that was just an example that Krishna showed, that Lord Shiva became attracted. But if we ever get to the platform that we could actually see Mohini Murti as the demigod saw her, which means that we just have to become as pious as the demigods and be as qualified as they were to see her, they were not agitated by her. Only the demons were. And Lord Shiva was agitated by Mohini Murti because that was Krishna's arrangement, just as it says, so that the sages could see that even women, the power of women is so powerful that even someone like Lord Shiva under very special circumstances can become agitated. That's why we have the men here on this side and the women on this side, and a few in the back there. Because we respect the power of women. Because they're empowered with the potency of Mohini Murti to different degrees. Otherwise, what is the attraction that Mohini Murti had? Because she has the potency. And Krishna empowers different living entities with different potencies. And then we respect that. Otherwise, we think, well, men and women are the same, butter and fire are the same. We don't really care. It looks like the butter has turned the ghee and it's boiling, but that's all right. Soon it'll catch fire. It'll become just like the fire. It'll become. No, we have some appreciation for these things, some respect. Anything else? Because we have an objective, that is to become Krishna conscious. We understand it's not going to be possible to become Krishna conscious when you're boiling away in fire. Anything else? Okay, I'm only going to read the last paragraph here. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur specifically deals with the original and pure sex psychology. Adi Ras, devoid of all mundane inebriety. So if you go on book distribution, you can say that this book deals with pure sex psychology. Don't tell them the other thing. No, pure sex psychology. Adi Ras, the original sex psychology. The whole material creation is moving under the principle of sex life. In modern civilization, sex life is the focal point of all activities. Wherever one turns his face, he sees sex life predominant. Therefore, sex life is not unreal. Its reality is experienced in the spiritual world. The material sex life is but a perverted reflection of the original fact. The original fact is in the absolute truth, and thus the absolute truth cannot be impersonal. It is not possible to be impersonal and contain pure sex life. Consequently, the impersonalist philosophers have given indirect impetus to the abominable mundane sex life because they have overstressed the impersonality of the ultimate truth. Consequently, man without information of the actual spiritual form of sex has accepted perverted sex life as the all-in-all. There is a distinction between sex life and the diseased material condition and spiritual sex life. So there's such a thing as spiritual sex life, but that we can't understand until we have a spiritual body, or at least we have spiritual consciousness. Otherwise, trying to imagine it is not so bad. To try to understand Radha and Krishna's pastimes is not necessarily wrong, as long as one doesn't become agitated and think they're mundane. Then one may get some feeling or some appreciation for them, and even that will give some understanding that it's not material sex life. Neither Radha nor Krishna have material bodies, and therefore, why would they have sex life? Material sex life doesn't, because they're enjoying just by looking at each other, just by being the same. As it says, when Srimati Radharani experiences different types of ecstasy, Krishna enjoys that thousands of times more than when he actually physically contacts her. So who can understand that? This Srimad Bhagavatam will gradually elevate the unbiased reader to the highest perfectional stage of transcendence. It will enable him to transcend the three modes of material nature, fruitive activities, speculative philosophy, and worship of the functional deities as inculcated in the Vedic verses. So if you want fruitive activities, you want to enjoy fruitive activities, you want mental speculation, speculative philosophy, and you want to enjoy the demigods, don't read the Bhagavatam. It'll spoil your material life. Be careful. So we'll stop there. Any questions? Yes. We have a microphone coming by post, fast post.
And thank you, Maharaj, for the class. I want to ask a question about going back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada said, make your life successful, go back home, back to Godhead. So when we say go back home, back to Godhead, does that mean that we attain the transcendental platform, and wherever we are, whether it's the hellish planet or heavenly planets or earthly planets, or does it actually mean going back to the spiritual world?
Do you know
or it's the same thing?
Do you know any verse that tells you what that is?
1420?
There's
No.
a 14. No, not in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Shiva speaking to Parvati.
Uh-huh.
Narayana para sarge kutasthana vivyati swaga apavarga narakeshu tuya napi something. That Narayana para sarge, one who's Krishna conscious, that Narayana para sarge kutasthana vivyati, wherever he is, whether he's in Swarga or Apavarga, he's liberated, or he's in Narakeshu, in hell, Tulya api darshanaha, that he sees everything equally, because he's in Krishna consciousness. So there's, as it says in the first canto, when the Pandav is returning home in the purport, returning home means that their consciousness, even in this lifetime, even in this body, merge into transcendence, into the spiritual consciousness. And there's no difference, you've heard before, there's no difference between devotional service and the kingdom of God. So that answers your question.
Thank you.
Anything else? Wala Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande.
ne, se vidiš.
Bele najprej.
Ja,
Pa treba je, če sprav petek, če jo operem, do ponedeljka da sto.
Słuchaj, koj. Se na roki to podaš, to je to.
Se bom tam kje na radiatorju, nekam je treba obezati.
Za strojnice, če bi gledal stroj, bo tu vse razpravljalo.
To moraš paziti, ja, so še neke bleščice ponavadi. Bom, seveda. Hvala, da ste spomnili, sem se niti spomnil.
Pa barvo pošajo, pa ne vem kaj, to če imamo prav, bo vse enake barve, pa vem.
Pa bojo vse pisale.
Samo za